Cool. So season 4, episode 8, code in progress. So what's going on this week? We've basically got the bar, all engineering efforts going into getting that over the line. So we've got this first few kind of integration points done, and there's still a bit more to do. Gabe will have the scoop on that. We're going deeper on the risk analysis stuff, and there's some exciting updates there that we're still working through, but once we can share them, it's definitely gonna blow minds. So super excited for that. We've got the multi-sig Merkle root updater stabilizing on the test nets, but there's still some issues to work through before that's ready to go, and that bit in particular is a really important piece of infrastructure, given that's kind of what the entire bar system relies on. So hence it's kind of one of those key milestones for the alpha. So we have the full stack integration and with the Merkle root being published, that's when a lot of the stuff comes together. So that's kind of like a quick rundown on the bar side. From a platform side, we've been structuring these benefit programs for protocols. So the first one's in work, and we've been working hard to get that over the line, which has been exciting. And in addition to these benefit programs, we've got some key hypotheses on what tangible benefits we can work with protocols to offer the end users. And that's kind of a lot of the thinking is going around structuring things around benefits rather than scores. Because scores are numbers on a screen, and benefits represent what a score can do for a user. So that's still work that's being done, and then we've got the next version of the Discord bot being defined, and that's looking more and more solid. So once we get engineering capacity, we'll be able to start working on that. So really just a lot of code this week. And yeah, over to the other side of things. So shout out. So Demir, he's been integrating the complexities around the math and the code for the contracts. Super hard, but crucial to get us over the line. So thank you for that. Kalen Stewart. So the work coming out from a risk modeling perspective, it's been so many weeks, probably months of trying to wrap our head around what is optimal, how do we structure this, what's too complex, what's the right level of abstraction. So just seeing it come to life is really, really cool work. And then big shout out to Corey. The prayers, it's I think we're almost 100 days of praise. So I want to shout out to him for the consistency and relentlessness of those. So if you're watching this, thank you. And challenges, so just like continuing work on the sales process and making sure that we can have it as measurable as possible and as repeatable. So that's it from an engineering perspective. An overview perspective, I'll pass it over to Gabe for engineering.
Awesome, thanks. You pretty much covered most of the things, so I'll keep it short for myself. But like Kerman said, we continued the integrations on the UI, basically putting all the pieces together of contracts, UI backend, and data, and it's ongoing. We didn't finish yet, but we should be finishing that this week. And also we deployed an updated backend infrastructure that allows us to scale to many scores last week, so that went well. And also I forgot to add here the multi-sig root updater that also was is currently being tested on the testnet. I just want to do so this week we should finish, like I said, the integration on Borrow, so we should be able to borrow on Mumbai and do the full flow and read some events on the data side. Shout out to Yarek for completing the remaining 5% of the tests on the contract. So we have thousands and thousands of lines of testing of tests on the contract side, and some of them were skipped because they were complex. And but now that the implementation on the contracts is complete, he finally completed they completed all the remaining tests, which is really nice to see. And yeah, that's it pretty much. The challenges is for this week is to ensure a smooth user experience when borrowing, because like during when we implement the UI part, it's very easy to find some, like we often find some weird bugs in the inputs and whatnot, like when dealing with big numbers. So ensuring a good UX is top priority. So that's it for me. I'm gonna pass it on to Kale for the data.
GM to everyone, wherever you are in the world. What's happening in the data world at the moment? So we've pretty much closed off all of our major work with the credit score. So the last piece of the puzzle remaining is to just connect it up to mainnet. So it's all connected up to Mumbai. It's all very happy. So that's in a very good state. Other things that kind of happened was we finalized our first pass of risk modeling, and as Kermit alluded to, very interesting outputs. So interesting that I'm not willing to quote them yet until I double check and triple check my numbers because they're too interesting. Other things that kind of happened is we had a release of our custom scores infrastructure. We've nicknamed it Casio because Casio calculators. So we've had a release of that, which is pretty cool. And then we also had a release of some ETL pipelines to speed up the website for Kyle's perspective, who isn't present today. This week, one of the big things we're trying to get to this week is just for everyone in the data squad to just synchronize. We've had a lot of threads going, and we're almost at the end of all of them. So we're just trying to synchronize them, get everyone together, close out that like 5% of work, just close it out, and work on bug fixing, refactoring, and things as we go live for the alpha borrow. So that's kind of a really, really big focal point this week. And then also we're going to brainstorm and start to kickstart our next iteration of risk modeling. So how do we go from this, initial alpha-centric risk model and promote it to a beta-centric model, which is a lot more complex. Shout out. So big shout out to Kyle. He swooped in and fixed prod after a bug was introduced from the data squad. So I'll talk about that in the challenges. And then also Stuart with helping me out with the risk modeling. I've been holding on to this for ages, and I was starting to get caught in loops and go down rabbit holes. And all I needed was Stuart to sit there and go, "You're an idiot," and slap me and say, "There's a simple solution here." So it was very, very nice. Big shout out to him. So the challenge for us that I put down this week is we had our first major bug that had to have a reversion in our release and caused a prod outage. So that's a very, very big deal. That's the first one we've really had, which makes me go, how do we catch these before they're released? Kyle and I are usually really good at having fail-safe mechanisms. And yeah, it's just kind of doing a post-mortem, seeing what happened, and improving some process there to prevent that happening in the future. So that's usually really, really good. That just identified an issue in our kind of audit process internally. So we're working through that challenge of figuring out how to make things more robust in the future. That's it for me. I'll hand it over to Liam for BD.
Thanks. So last week we gained 71 new users. It was mostly through the AMA, so it coincided with the day that we did it on the Entropy-Fi Discord. We're making some great progress in terms of just ironing out some of the final steps in how we solidify partnerships with the aforementioned benefits program. And moving forward, these BD updates are going to be more data driven. So I'm sort of building like a way of just reporting things in a standardized way, looking at kind of like new projects that we're having conversations with, projects that are now interested, and then obviously new partners that have been formed. And then this week there will be like the final score that we're running in our like sort of broad scores, which is the Lobus HQ score. And then I'll just be helping out where I can on a partnership opportunity that's going to Snapshot. I'm looking for like a merch provider for something coming soon, and then I am testing sort of our prospecting plan. So some of this language is like a little bit specific, but we're sort of redoing how we do this sales process and building out a new one, and there's just components there that we're adding to, and then doing some more prospecting this week. So big shout out to Kale, Stuart, and Kerman for collaborating together. They're sort of like the Avengers, but for data nerds, I guess you could say. But they're doing a great job. Like, there's so much great collaboration, and it's awesome when we're starting to get to a point where we're more active in the market, and we've got peers in other projects, and the rate that we're able to sort of identify needs that are unmet and start to address them by collaborating across teams within ARCx is just like really awesome. And it's just, you love to see it, right? So big shout out there. And then the big structure, the challenge this week is just like, I'm taking a lot more pipeline centric view of the world, and we obviously want to get more sort of partnerships. So I'm just figuring out what that prospecting plan looks like. I'm working with Kerman on that, and hopefully this is going to unblock more deals for us. So that's everything from me this week. I'm going to hand over to Hugh.
Hey everybody. So last week in product and operations, we tested an update for our passport claim metrics and Discord bot. So we on the Discord bot, we basically now it's still the GM bot. We've added a couple of tweaks and made it a bit more stable. So that's now gone live on our servers that we've installed it on. And also the passport claims metric, we needed to make an update there just because it was overstating the numbers on the website. We had a whole bunch of bots come in December before we implemented CAPTCHA, so that's now been fixed. It also gave us the opportunity to test the QA process end to end, which was really good. So now that process is much tighter between product and engineering. The other thing that was happening last week was working on a high-level go-to-market plan. So this is really just thinking about Borrow. How do we position it with respect to platform? What we've been talking about with platform is like a generalization of the ARCx tech that can be applied to different protocols and different use cases outside of Borrow. So we need to think carefully about how we position those two products side by side so we don't confuse users or make it just like an uncomfortable experience when you're first discovering ARCx. Also spend a bit of time thinking about which features we would release when, what is the success criteria for launch, and how should we actually make decisions off the back of those success criteria, and then what are the sales and marketing activities that need to occur when, and how does that kind of link up with what's happening in engineering. And the last thing that happened last week was finalizing spec for Discord bot v2. So this one here is where we link up the ETH address with the user on Discord, and then we can start doing really, really cool and interesting things with the Discord experience. This is going to be, targeted towards the community managers of DAOs primarily, but it allows things like score-gated channels, and then eventually things like surfacing scores in your passport within within Discord. If we look ahead to this week, the main things on my plate here, I want to finalize the spec for the closed beta version of Borrow, which is the next version out past alpha. That's going to be sort of incremental changes, but still really, really important ones, and it'll introduce like self-service liquidity pools and stuff. So that's going to be a big one. Second here, developing a detailed launch document for alpha and beta. So we've got the high level plan now, like how do we actually tactically think through the activities that have to happen across the whole business so that we can make sure that everyone is, working in sync and executing to that plan. Alongside this work that we did this week on product positioning, we're going to be developing a new landing page, but we need to then think through like what the site structure would be, including like the subdomains of ARCx. And then the final thing, we have this team retreat that we've been planning. Turns out that COVID wasn't the biggest issue that we had getting people to come to a certain place across the world. Visas and whatnot is becoming more challenging, so I'm going to be supporting on that front. quick shout outs, Liam and Kerman. Thank you for teaching me about sales. You introduced me to a book that I've like really enjoyed reading over the weekend. So that's been awesome. And Kale and Stuart, thank you for helping me get the white paper across the line. Really appreciate it. There's some pretty sweet stats coming out there, which really make it quite interesting. And challenges, yeah, just staying across product bugs in lieu of monitoring. So I think before we get that up and it's automated, we just need to be like super across when the site goes down. But that's going to be better, I think, like getting tapped into GitHub closer and closer, so that when PRs get merged, I'll be able to like view what's going on. Yeah, so that's really it from mine.
Cool, thank you for that, Hugh. In terms of Q&As, I think main one is around staking. So staking will be resuming soon and for the final month. So we'll be posting about that today/tomorrow. But apart from that, doesn't seem to be any other questions outstanding. So yeah, happy to call it here. Thank you everyone for tuning in and see you all next week. Bye.